And welcome once again to another episode of S2E12 Productions Presents
JDM, Solve the World
After Dark.
I am James.
And I am Matt. And with us in studio is the one, the only, Ray. And on the phone for the first time, James, if you will.
Very good friend of mine. I have known for, Jesus, I guess it's been over 40 years, freshman year in high school. He is an Army veteran and retired 20-plus years in law enforcement, Mr. Jack Gates. Hello, Jack.
Well, hello.
There we go.
Hello. You got the board right over there by you now. You got it on the applause.
I'm just trying to figure out where everything is again. So, Jack, when were you in the Army?
I joined in '87. I was actually a reserve, so
okay,
weekend warrior.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm not mad at you. What was your job? What was your MOS?
31 Charlie, radio operator.
Wow, that's interesting because when I was in the Marine Corps from '92 to '96, I was a 2531 radio operator.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Back in the old days, children, when FM was the big thing, FM and AM and UHF and
VHS. No.
UHF, not the movie with
right.
Wardell Yankovic, which. But then I was a glutton for punishment. I joined the Army in 2005 and became a 13 Fox, a Ford Observer, until the Army said, you know what, you're too fucked up, so out you go. Yay.
Okay. You want to tell Jack the backstory about how come you went from the Marine Corps to the Army? You've told us on your getting to know the host.
I had some shit come up with an ex-wife, and my Marine Corps Reserve unit at the time said, don't call us, we'll call you. And I fell hook, line, and sinker for what the Army recruiter said. Because I was a Sergeant E5 in the Marine Corps Reserves, to go back active duty Marine Corps, they were like, hey, we're not going to take one rank, we're going to take two. You're going to go back in as an E3. And I'm like, I don't think so. And the Army said, oh, man, we'll get you promoted, duty station of choice. You want airborne too? Hell yeah. And I'm like,
want that writing.
And I'm like, here we go. Yeah, I got 2 jobs to keep my E5. So.
Well, congratulations.
Yay. And I only got promoted one time in fucking 9 years.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
You would think getting blowed up in Afghanistan, that'd have got
Iraq.
you, or Iraq, that would have got you another promotion.
It did.
That's the one that did.
Yeah, I got promoted when I got home from Iraq. I made points, and then I had 2 more deployments after that, and a couple of years, and I got nothing.
Mm.
Yeah.
So Jack, do you ever go overseas any or?
No, all mine was stateside, of course, being a reservist.
Right.
But I was supposed to go to Germany for Reforger,
mm-hmm.
and they changed our orders at the last minute, and I ended up doing AT at Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
Oh my God! I am so sorry.
Okay, I got one question.
Yeah.
What is AT?
Annual training.
Okay.
That's the 2 weekend, 2 weeks out of the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in a year.
Okay. Another question. What is MOS?
Military Occupational Specialty.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I've heard the MOS from the Legion that I'm a member of.
Right.
I've heard MOS is like, what in the hell is that?
Well, now you have some newfound knowledge that you can
Yeah.
At least understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
MOS means
Job.
your job was while you were in
Yeah.
the military.
Right.
Okay.
And I mean,
Sorry
and
to
if,
interrupt. My bad.
if
my
you
bad.
want to go down a rabbit hole, I will totally fry your brain with 11 series, 12 series, 13 series, 68 series, 9 series.
Of
Yeah.
what?
Oh no, that's the thing is in MOS's 11 series is one thing, 13 series is another. So it's like 11 Bravo, 11 Charlie, 11 Delta, 13
okay.
Fox, 13
MOS
Bravo.
means what you were doing. Okay, that's
Yep.
all I need to know.
Okay.
Well, for right now. Until then, that's good. If not, then I will, text you, say, what does this mean?
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
yes.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. My bad.
So, Jack, whenever you was in, was you just pre-Desert Storm and all that shit, or
Yes.
Yeah.
I was out by the time Desert Storm kicked in.
right?
I got a letter asked me to report to the nearest recruiter station to be where they do a check on you, and never heard back from them after that. So guess they didn't want me back.
Well,
Them motherfuckers.
it's kind of funny because if Desert Storm would have happened during your time, they would have sent you. The reserves were the first guys they sent in there. It seemed like.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, my unit, matter of fact, got called up. So I knew, guys I'd served with, they went over there.
Right. I know, like Daniel Rash and several of the guys there in Bolivar that joined the reserves, thinking, yeah, I won't have to do any combat or nothing, They're the ones sent over there. And-
during basic training, our battalion commander come in, and he starts asking questions. His first question here is, how many here are combat support? Well, a couple of hands raised, and he goes, everyone's arms should be raised because you're all combat support.
Uh-huh.
And he said, how many are reservists? And, a number of us raised our hands.
Right.
He said, so you guys figure you'll be the last ones to see action, right? A lot of them shook their head, nodded, and he goes, you'll be the first ones. I'll just let you know now.
Uh-huh. I know when my brother went in, he went in 1965.
Wow.
And he actually got his draft card, so he tells us today he was a draft dodger because he he went in and took his physical and he left there going, yeah, I'm not doing that shit. And I always thought he went to the Air Force right then, but he's told me since he's been back here, he's like, no, he said, I went and joined the Navy.
Really?
Yeah, he said, I joined the Navy, said, had my orders and everything, and he said, I was going to be on a carrier and all this shit, and he goes, I got to thinking about that, and I was like, fuck, I'm going to be out in the middle of the fucking ocean. And when these jets take off, the reason they got nets on the flight line is for the guys that are out there, they don't get blown off the side. He's like, maybe this might not be something I want to do. And he went in to take his obligation, and they told him, said, okay, here's the deal, guys. Once you take this obligation, you're in. If anybody wants to step out now, you can. And he's like, I'm out. Him and like 3 or 4 other guys left. So they were pissed, but he went over right to the Air Force recruiter, signed up with the Air Force. He said, which was cool because they didn't have room for me at the time, so I got to spend another 6 months at home.
Yep.
But then he ended up over in, let's just say, Southeast Asia. We won't say a country.
Right.
On a special forces deal, and ended up in the
Across
shit
the
anyway.
pond.
Well,
Across
now,
the pond.
I mean,
Big pond.
truth be told, you said he joined in 65.
Right.
Okay, the history books show that in 1965 we were not quite knee deep in the rice paddies of Vietnam, but we were in Vietnam.
We'll
We'll leave it at that.
He didn't get sent there till later.
Right.
Yeah.
But the United States was in Vietnam in 1965.
Right. think we had mostly advisors and stuff, but there was a little bit of military operations starting to go on at that point, and then it escalated from there.
May or may not have happened.
Yeah, man.
I don't know.
Allegedly,
Yeah. Allegedly.
the whole Gulf of Tonkin incident and all that stuff. And, yeah.
Laos.
Go down to conspiracy theory here, hole here.
Air America.
Yeah.
Which
You
was
know,
a
Matt,
pretty cool movie.
I no,
I've not seen that movie, but anyway.
I've actually seen Lethal Weapon. I've heard about Air America.
Yeah. Air America's got Robert Downey Jr. and Mel Gibson.
I've heard of it. I've never seen the movie.
It was RDJ before he went to jail.
Right.
Then before Mel Gibson became anti-Semitic.
That's that's almost another podcast.
I think he needs a pass on a drunken rant to an ex-wife. That's just me. Great actor, great producer. That's all I can say.
Gibson or Downey?
Gibson.
Oh yeah, Downey doesn't have an ex-wife.
Well, I don't know that.
His current wife is what has pulled him out of the gutter and like made him who he is.
Downey just went down the drug.
Yeah, but he actually went to jail.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, Downey and Gibson were kind of, buddies whenever Downey went to, through his shit, Gibson was his best supporter
Okay.
that, helped him, get out of what he got into. If I'm wrong, tell me.
I know Disney made Jon Favreau. There was like $1 million insurance policy when they filmed Iron Man because he had already filmed Sherlock Holmes. RDJ. He had already filmed the first Sherlock Holmes, but it hadn't come out yet. And I mean, these were the first projects he did when he first got released from prison. And there was that $1 million insurance policy. Hey, if something goes wrong,
Talking about Downey, right?
yeah,
Right.
Okay. Well,
better known as RDJ
Yeah,
in the
well-
MCU.
okay. Sorry.
I'm a geek. I went to Planet Comic Con. Okay,
Not up on the,
the Lingity.
yeah, exactly. But,
That's a wealth of useless information.
well,
Yes.
okay, well, but, Downey was down
I get it. Downey was down.
in
Junior.
the dumps. Gibson, helped him, come back out. And then whenever,
He came out of the closet.
in the dumps, whenever he was, going through whatever he was going through. And then Gibson, helped him. And then whenever Gibson,
Flew off the handle.
blew off the handle, Downey was, there to, help him out.
Kind of. But then again, I mean, Robert Downey Jr. was just a dude playing another dude. And even Jamie Foxx has said that nobody else could have played that role that Robert Downey Jr. played in Tropic Thunder.
Right,
Because everybody else would have been fucking blackballed in Hollywood for blackface and everything.
you'd have the
If they made that movie today, it could not be released.
NAACP.
Well, I mean, it's
You'd have
like we've talked about Blazing Saddles.
Reverend.
So, Jack, what's your thought on that? All the movies that we grew up loving that could not be made today.
I would say that they're probably half of them at least probably
Yeah.
couldn't be made or would have to be changed radically.
Right. I seen a deal on Facebook the other day. It said Blazing Saddles has been edited for television. It will air at 7:05 and end at 7:09.
Yeah.
You know what's funny though is Mel Brooks was actually taking pokes at racists for that movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so to me, I would think that minorities would appreciate that movie in the sense that that he made the the racists look like all hillbillies and you know.
Right.
in this
You
show,
know, and I think honestly, I think minorities did appreciate it, but it's the ultra woke shit we got going on right now
well,
that's
it's the people that
trying
don't
to shut everybody down.
right. It's the people that don't understand that the movie was written by 3 Jews and a prominent black comedian.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Mel Brooks and his writing partners were all Jews. Of course, Mel Brooks is a Jew.
Mm-hmm.
And Richard fucking Pryor,
Yep.
Okay.
prominent black fucking comedian,
Right. Yeah.
is credited
Yeah.
as being one of the writers. But yet it's a racist movie. It's so wrong.
Right. Jack, do you remember the Saturday Night Live episode with Richard Pryor and Chevy Chase?
Help me along. I'm trying to recall.
Word
which one.
association.
Word association.
No, I don't guess I remember that one.
You got Chevy Chase saying like porch monkey and spear chucker, and then he drops the N word, and Richard Pryor looks at him and just says dead honky.
Yeah.
I
And that
think I've
was
seen
on
that one.
on NBC. Wasn't prime time, but it was
Not
after-
ready for primetime players. and
after
this
prime
was-
time in '75. That was the first year because that was the only year Chevy Chase was on it.
Yep. And
Yeah, the N bomb was dropped on national television.
yep.
I do not recall that. Oh,
It's on YouTube. Look it up.
Oh yeah.
okay.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Yeah.
And you know, and that's the thing is, like we have talked about it on a podcast, on recasting that movie, re-releasing that movie,
Right.
and flipping the roles.
Well, what's a black?
A white
the white.
sheriff in a black town
Right.
instead of
Oh, yeah.
a black sheriff in a white town.
Yep.
Well, it
And-
would not. I'm thinking it would not work, you know, in this day and age.
It would with the cast that we assembled,
Yep.
and God forbid,
Dave Chappelle, Danny Glover.
oh fucking Wesley Snipes, The Rock.
Yeah.
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 The Rock is Mongo.
I'll go like candy.
Who do we just finally decide on the white sheriff? Was it Owen Wilson?
No. Gary. Fuck! I just had his name. I follow him. He's a white comedian that's completely
Oh,
loved.
yeah. Gary.
Yeah.
Gary, how much?
God, I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
he was on BET and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
married to
Married to a black woman.
Yeah, all his
Or
children
was married to a
are-
black.
Yeah.
I know he's dating a black woman again, and all of his children are.
Well, it's because he
mixed.
said that's because on his last comedy special, he's like, "Hey, brothers, don't get me wrong. I ain't going to no white pussy. So I come out of a white pussy, I'm never going back."
I came out and I took that one last look and said, "Never again." You know, if I was on the
The fuck is his
stand
name?
and they asked me about the Bill Cosby, you know, if there was 30 white women that said that I sexually assaulted him, and I would just look at the judge and say, "Not guilty. I ain't had white pussy since white pussy had me."
Yep.
Oh shit! I don't even know. Let me look.
We'll Google him.
Yeah.
So Jack, what did you get into the
Gary Owens.
Gary Owens? That's it.
Yep.
So when did you get into law enforcement? Did you do that right after you got out of the military, or?
No, not immediately. It actually happened when we moved, from Bolivar to where we're at now. and I was actually a reserve for the sheriff's department for a short time, and then I went reserving for a department down here by Branson,
Right.
and I got put on a reserve there. I was a reserve for like 9 months, and as a reserve, it's sort of like an unpaid volunteer kind of position. You still have arrest powers. You still, can do everything that a full-time police officer can do. You're just basically doing it for, considered community service.
Right.
And then I got hired in '92 full-time.
Cool.
And I was with that department for almost 7 years, and then I moved on to the sheriff's department, and that I don't think that was the best fit for me, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to the last department I was with, a municipal police department. I was with them for 13 years.
Cool. So you was basically a police apprentice.
You could sort of, as a reserve, I was,
Right.
getting experience. I needed to be able to do the job. So, in fact, the day that I went full time, traditionally you have what they call a field training officer, who will be with you for a number of weeks until they feel you're ready to do it solo. But back in that day and time, and with the reserve time I'd put in, they just basically handed the keys and said, "There you go, it's all yours."
Cool.
So, what is your take on former Sheriff Joe Arpaio in Montgomery County, Maricopa County, Arizona, Phoenix?
Yeah, Sheriff Joe. He was pretty. He was a straight shooter, wasn't he?
Yes,
He didn't take a whole lot of guff. He certainly was not woke,
No.
and by today's standards, completely politically incorrect. But you have to appreciate his ways of doing things, because he did things simply, and he got the attention of America. In fact, he garnered the ire of a lot of people on the far left. And he was just, in my opinion, was being a good steward of county resources and money, and doing the job that he was put there to do.
I lived out in Phoenix when he was the sheriff out there, and I had heard about the chain gang and everything like that, and then I saw them in their pink jumpsuits with ankle chains sweeping the roads with 2 officers on horseback with shotguns right behind them. Sheriff Joe, he let the Humane Society use the jails because the animals did not choose to be homeless.
Right.
And he put all the prisoners in Tent City. And his whole thing was, because, this was, after 9/11, and we had people, in Iraq and Afghanistan. And his thing was, there's men and women in full battle gear in 130-degree weather. You're in a tent with a fan. I think you can survive.
Right.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Every Father's Day, he had Deadbeat Dad Roundup with the sheriff's posse.
Wow.
Which would be like your reserve, like you're part of the department, but you're not being paid. Yeah, that was the Sheriff Joe's posse. And every Father's Day, the jails would get full because they would just round up all deadbeat dads.
Right.
It was
They ever made a movie about him yet?
No, there was a news story on a former beauty queen who had turned to drugs, and she'd gotten really bad, and she was in jail. And anytime a homeless person would die, the prisoners would be the ones that buried him. They had their own cemetery, you know, for homeless people, and they would be the ones in attendance to the funerals. This one beauty queen didn't know it until the funeral. She was burying her father.
Wow.
He had
Wow.
came searching for her and became homeless. Yeah. I mean, how sober is that going to make you?
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, that would do it.
Yeah.
Well, you would hope.
Yeah, and I mean, it showed like a picture of her when she was on the beauty pageant circuit, and then her arrest photo, and it's like crystal meth's a hell of a drug.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, it was bad.
Wow.
I mean, she looked like she could be a beauty queen at in Bolivar.
Wow.
About 20 years ago.
Yeah, I've seen the outcome of what meth can do, and let me tell
Oh,
you,
yeah.
it can change them internally and externally.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they, you know, my time of being a bouncer out at Southern Star is like, you'd see, you know, I've done that off and on for about 10 years in my free time. And it's like, why? Because I've seen beautiful girls just wither to nothing and lose all their freaking teeth. And you try to talk to them, and it's not even the same person.
Right.
Yep.
You know, it's like, yeah, that's, you know, when you're making your shit in a fucking bathtub out of Drano and whatever the fuck else, that can't be good.
Okay. Do you
I lost
remember?
a cousin because of bathtub meth.
Oh yeah.
There was. This is when we had the band, and Chris and I were living out here, and there was a news story about a 70-year-old couple. I think they were like 72, 73. They got busted up around Urbana driving
Right.
around in a U-Haul
Right.
with a fucking meth lab on
Yep.
wheels. What the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Okay.
72, 73 years old. Why are you fucking making meth?
That was a retirement. They might
know,
not have been. They might not. They were selling it, not doing it.
You don't get high on your own supply.
Hell yeah.
I mean, they were Breaking Bad before Breaking Bad was Breaking Bad.
So
Oh, dude.
speaking of drugs, dude, you've been in law enforcement and everything. What do you think of Missouri legalizing marijuana recreationally now?
Well, I, being a non-participant of that particular substance, you know, I don't have any skin in the game as far as personal beliefs, but you know, my biggest concern, honestly, is you know, the worry of more impaired drivers on the roadway. You know, people who smoke are going to smoke, and you know, we have family and friends out on the roadway at any given time, and that is concerning. We'll see additional crashes because of it.
Right.
I guess that's about the extent of my thoughts on it. It's the voters have spoken, so to speak. So,
Well, I mean, as you know, I've heard the old line that, well, it's a gateway drug to worse shit, and kind of my theory on that, and this is just strictly my opinion. I have no research or nothing like that, but the way I can see it being a gateway is if you go to your fucking dealer and he's trying to push something else like meth or
Right.
coke or whatever. He's like, hey man, you need to try this, and they're like, no, I just want a quarter bag.
Yeah. Or they're lacing the shit.
Or they're lacing the shit. And that's the one thing I can see about it being legalized, where if you're buying it at a proper dispensary and shit, that maybe the fentanyl overdoses and shit may go down,
Right.
because you're not going to get any laced weed with fucked up shit, you know?
Well, and
I don't know.
It's been a month now and we haven't heard of DUIs going crazy, or anything like that. Because, I mean, personally, I don't do it. I know people that do, but the people that I know that do it, that drive while they're high, they've been doing it for a long fucking time. And they know their limits.
They're probably overcautious.
Right.
Or when you're drunk, you're like, yeah, I can make it.
Yeah.
But if you're high, you're like going, oh shit. Am I going the speed limit? Am I,
There may or may not have been a time years and years ago when I lived in Bolivar and we were in a band and I was at a girl's house and we smoked a fat fucking bowl and I was tripping out watching Stevie Ray Vaughan play.
Yeah.
Driving through Bolivar in a 5-speed car, and the only thing I hand to God, so glad that I never got out of a 25 mile an hour speed zone because I wasn't going any faster than 25.
Right.
And I was fucking concentrating on the road. I'm in control. I'm in control.
Exactly.
I'm in control. That is a very red light. I better stop now.
Right.
And then I may or may not have been so fucking high that I couldn't untie my boots. It's the dead of winter. I'm wearing shorts and Doc Marten boots, and I cannot untie my boots. Allegedly.
Allegedly. I could allegedly tell a story on myself back about that same time period.
Yep.
I was working out at the bar, and you and Chris and he shall not be named, were all at my house.
Yep.
And said, yeah, bring people out. We'll have a party. All right, cool. Brought people out. There were some people smoking the left-handed cigarettes, and Chris kind of
Devil's lettuce.
And Chris kind of got upset, so I told him, go outside and do that shit. And this one friend of mine from Bolivar, he said, man, you didn't get smoke with us, so here. And he gives me 2 big old fat buds in a Marlboro box. I'm like, okay. So I had these for a while, and I was buddies with this girl. We weren't dating or nothing. We were just friends. We hung out. And she called me one day. She goes, hey, we're having a little get-together at my house. All right. So I brought them with me. Guy chopped up one of them, rolled a joint, and me and her and him smoked it. And I didn't feel shit. I'm like, okay, this is some dank-ass shit. Apparently. I don't know. Didn't smoke it that much, So I was like, I got to go. I got to work tomorrow. I lived in Halfway. She lived behind McDonald's. By the time I got to D Highway, I was so freaking paranoid. I'm like, what the fuck? Is that a cop? Is that a cop? Is that a cop? And I feel like I'm going 5 miles an hour. I look down, I'm doing 55. I set my cruise. And I'm driving along 32 Highway. I'm like, is that corner ever going to get here? And then the corner got there, and we eased around it. In my mind, it took an hour and a half to get from Bolivar to Halfway. I get home. I go to bed. I'm laying there. I'm like, oh, fuck. I am so fucked up. I will never be able to go to work tomorrow. I lay down, and all of a sudden, I hear... I raise up, I'm like, what the fuck was that? I lay back down, I hear. I raise up, I'm like, what the fuck? It was my eyelashes on the pillowcase. I'm like, son of a bitch, I will never be able to go to work tomorrow. Alarm clock goes off. I wake up. I'm not hungover. In fact, I felt really good.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, no, that shit tripped me the fuck out.
Okay.
Of course, Jack, I remember a time you did it with me.
Is that right? Is that what that was?
I remember a time when it was you, me, and a couple of our other buddies went to a house party, and a joint got passed around, and I ended up puking across the room. Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember him vomiting. I know. I remember the incident.
I went to lean up to get up, and you put your arm across my chest because you thought I was falling out of the couch. And I bazooka barfed across the room on this dude's foot. And I run into the bathroom, and I'm sitting there on the toilet going, oh, Jesus. I hear this guy going, that motherfucker puked on my foot. And I'm going, oh, shit, I'm going to get my ass beat because I can't do shit.
Now,
that was when we were very young.
That's when that was that night John was swearing he was dying. You remember that?
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
And I'm like, maybe we ought to do something. He says he's dying.
Yeah, and we're like, what are they doing in the movies? Let's get him up and walk him. And we picked his fucking ass up, and he's like, I fooled you fuckers. And we're like, fuck you, John. And we let him fall back down on the floor.
Yeah.
Now, there was the time when it was you, James, myself, Chris,
Right,
and he who shall not be named.
right.
You had gotten 2 joints from somebody, and we were puff passing between the 4 of us.
I thought that was when Vez came out.
No, this was just the 4 of us.
Oh, okay.
And we started playing Cumbersome.
Right.
And halfway through the song, the drummer decides to end the song because he thinks that we've been playing that song for
An hour.
And we ended up not expanding our horizon playing music and just played Sega football.
Yep. I do have to say, you can hear music a totally different way when you've been smoking.
Yes.
You can hear all the layers that the artist put into the recording and shit.
Right.
Because I'd always got, I get in guitar magazines and stuff back then, and it'd say guitar 1, guitar 2, guitar 3, guitar 4, and I'm like, wait a second, there's only 2 guitar players in this band. But if you're smoking that shit, you could hear every freaking line. You're like, oh, whoa.
Right.
This is wild.
Yeah.
You remember Jimmy Myers, don't you?
Oh, sure.
He came out and jammed with us one time, and he's like, you care if I smoke a little bit? Because I can't play if I'm not a little bit high. And I'm like, I don't care, dude. You do you, man. We're just drinking our fucking Miller High Life.
The champagne of beers.
And the guy was awesome. I mean, he's a hell of a guitar player, you know. But I just get too paranoid on the shit. But it's like Joe Rogan says. He said, that's what I like about it. It's that paranoid. He said, if you really want to be paranoid, he said, eat an edible and get on a fucking airplane.
I mean, there is that.
I don't know. I do think it helps some people, you know, whether it be veterans or people with chronic pain and stuff like that, you know. And as long as you ain't out driving, I don't give a shit what you do. I mean, there's a lot of people drinking. I was going to work, it's been a couple weeks ago, and I got behind the van, and that subbitch was barely keeping it between the lines, and this is at 7:30 in the morning. I'm going, are we day drinking or are we trying to go home? What the fuck here? You know? So I didn't even try to pass him. I'm like, okay, I'll sit back here and run 40 mile an hour. I don't give a shit.
Well, I mean, okay, you know, let's look at the big picture here.
I'll dial 911 and wait for you to crash. Hopefully you don't go in head on into somebody.
Right. But, you know, when will the big thing is when is somebody going to create a drug test for works that does not, you know, track marijuana? Because, okay, you can decide whether somebody has been using, by the way that they act, with alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't test for alcohol.
There you go.
a normal urinalysis is not going to show, because generally,
If you're drunk at work, yeah,
right. But
or a breathalyzer,
right. But
blood test. But alcohol's out of your system a lot quicker because every ounce of alcohol takes an hour
correct.
to get out of your system. But weed takes a lot longer. So if they do a drug test, what you're saying is a guy might not be high at work.
Right. But he may have smoked like a week ago.
Right.
I mean, because you can tie one on at night and get up the next morning and go to work hungover as fuck.
And if they done a urinalysis on you, you probably show alcohol in your system, but it may not be over the legal limit by then.
Yeah.
Depends on how much you drink.
Yeah. I mean, there is that.
I mean, and I've heard the argument, a lot of people said, well, everybody's going to be high at work. It's like, no, companies still have policies. If their policy is you can't use it, then you can't use it and work there.
There it is. You know, I mean,
the NFL has changed their drug policy to not test for marijuana.
in theory.
That's how they keep their players.
Yeah, exactly. NBA especially.
Yeah.
No kidding.
And that's not a black or white thing. I'm just saying.
No, it was a sports thing, I think.
Yeah. Can you imagine being a 25-year-old kid and getting signed to a multi-million-dollar contract? How stupid you could get?
Yeah. Because there's 40 and 50-year-olds who make bad decisions with that kind of windfall.
Oh,
Look at
hell.
lottery winners.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could say when I was 25, I'd have probably went off. It's like I told the wife, you know, we were talking the other night about if we'd had a wrestling team in Bolivar, I'd have been on that shit. And if I'd have won state and then got a wrestling scholarship, how I might have been Mr. WrestleMania instead of fucking Shawn Michaels. But in that period of time, I might not still be alive. Because I do have an addictive personality, and it's like Jake the Snake Roberts is handing you a rail of cocaine. You'd be like, okay, Jake, you know.
Well, I mean, it was Jake, so it's probably, meth. I'm just saying.
No, they can afford cocaine.
Yeah, it was cheaper back in the day.
Meth was the poor man's cocaine.
That was crack.
No, crack is cocaine. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Jack, but crack, you know the difference between crack and cocaine? And this
One's
is
crystallized and one's powdered.
right. And they're on different schedules. Because I think regular cocaine is what, a Schedule 2 or Schedule 3? It's not even as scheduled as high as marijuana.
That's because it has some medical use.
Right. But
Yeah.
crack is a Schedule 4 or whatever. But some conspiracy theories say, well, that's a racist deal because rich people can do cocaine and poor black people do crack.
Well, Chris Rock talks about that, and it's dived into in the movie New Jack City. Because the inner cities were all about crack.
Right.
And it was crack was actually cheaper than cocaine because your Wall Street traders were all doing the cocaina.
Right.
And your inner city in the ghetto or in the projects, if you will, they were all crack.
Right.
Crack is whack.
Of course, if you look at all except for methamphetamine's been used for years to keep people awake, diet pills, shit like that. But it wasn't like the bathtub meth that we got now.
Right.
But all the illicit drugs have been used as for medical purposes at one point in time. I mean, heroin is basically an opioid.
Painkiller.
It's just an opioid, you know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
more people die of opioid addiction, legal, quote unquote, opioids than probably anything else.
Yeah, especially with fentanyl now.
Oh, yeah. It was funny. I don't know if I told you this story the other night. I think I told Rio back, let's see, that'd have been 2021. I went to Las Vegas for Order of Quetzalcoatl, Feast of Fire, and got there the first night and supposed to meet my nephew Howie down the bar. We started doing some drinking then. Went upstairs, drank some moonshine with another friend of ours. Wanted to go back to the hospitality room afterwards. I should have went to my room. I didn't. Went up to the hospitality room.
I was there for that one.
Yep. Went up to the hospitality room, and I'm like, okay, I'm going down. I got to go to bed. Well, there was an escalator going from the hospitality room down to the casino, going across then had to go across the casino and up to the elevators. Well, I took
Second
the first
floor
step.
down to the first floor, right?
Yep. I took the first step on that escalator, and I missed it and done a header.
Oh my gosh.
And an escalator is nothing but fucking knives.
As this, going down and then coming back up.
Security guards come around there, or Chief Kamasi,
Chief Supreme
Tylock, seen me.
Yeah,
He's from New York.
yeah. And
See me down there, and the security guards were down there, and he come up, and they go, "Oh, you got to step back, sir." And he goes, "No, this is one of my guys here." And he grabbed my hat, sent it back up to hospitality room. My brother Herb was up there. Say, "Is this one of your guys?" Oh, shit, that's James's. Come down. Herb stood at the top of the escalator, looked down. I'm in a fucking pool of blood at the bottom of this escalator, knocked the fuck out.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
So I wake up in the hospital getting sewed up. I've got 30 years of professional wrestling scars on my forehead now from one night.
from one night of going down the
Yeah, plus
escalator.
on my shoulder, my leg. I've got,
Well, hey,
But anyway,
He may or may not look like Dusty Rhodes.
a little bit. The American dream, Dusty Rhodes coming to South Kakalaka, North Kakalaka.
Hot times.
Kakalaka.
Ric
But
Flair,
anyway-
you
Digging
put
that.
the Rose family in hot
I wake
times.
up there and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Oh, we're gonna make you pretty again." I'm like, "Sweetheart, I wasn't pretty to start with. You ain't gonna make that happen."
You can't sew enough.
But anyway, they said, "We got your prescription for hydrocodone." I'm like, "What?"
I've got some of them if you need one.
No.
Yeah.
It's like hydrocodone. I'm like, because when I had my motorcycle wreck, that was what I was on for a while after my wreck. And I'm like, hydrocodone? I don't need hydrocodone. She goes, "Oh yeah, you're going to need them." And I'm like, "Okay." So we went and got the script filled. I never took one. I had to leave. I mean, everything hurt. I cracked a rib and all kinds of shit, But I'm like, they're just handing out hydrocodone for that? I mean, yeah, I hurt. Don't get me wrong, but, I can, ever since my motorcycle wreck, I can deal with pain.
Right.
Pain is just a reminder that you're still alive.
right.
I'm like, okay, yeah, it is pretty easy to get. And the script was like $20 for a bottle of hydrocodone. I'm like, seriously.
Well, I've got a bottle of those.
For
At the house.
teeth pulled?
They're at the house,
From getting your teeth pulled?
No, that was a either from this or
Oh, from a long time ago.
yeah, long time ago.
Probably ought to flush them some bitches down the toilet and it get the alligators high.
I've got them. I've got that, and then I've got a bottle of Tylenol 3, with codeine.
Mm-hmm.
That's what got me a dirty UA.
Mm.
I've got a CDL, in which, I get a phone call. They're like, wait a minute, you had a dirty UA. They're like, I'm thinking, oh shit, wait a minute. And not intending to, had a tooth pulled.
Right.
Dr. Jump prescribes me Tylenol 3, in which, from that point on, anytime I, needed, pain meds, I said, hey, I've got a CDL. I need something that's not going to show up on a,
They said go to Walmart, buy some Aleve or some ibuprofen.
if you're going to prescribe me anything, something that's not going to show up on a UA. Because at any given time, DOT wants a, piss test.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I mean, at the same time, though, if you've got a prescription and you have said prescription on you, because I mean, it's the same thing as being in the military.
Well, okay.
You have guys that get prescribed a controlled substance. Like when I had my hip surgery, I had Percocets and I had hydrocodone.
Mm-hmm.
And
both of them are good. Both of them are good sitting pills. You take them and then you're sitting.
I couldn't take them.
Well,
for me,
I get it.
Well, for me, it fucked with my dreams, just way too bad.
Fucked with your head way too much. Yeah.
But I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that.
If I were to take a urinalysis test while I was taking said narcotics, I got a prescription right here. Mm-hmm. Boom, they are prescribed. So it's not an excuse, but it's an excuse as to why that's in my system.
Right, but he couldn't take a Tylenol 3 with codeine in it.
Right.
Because he's
driving a truck.
Because my license says I've got a federal license that says that you cannot have any bear with me. Narcotic in my system.
Right. So you better hope you don't have to take a UL after we get back from St. Louis from the Pantera Metallica concert.
Because you're going to fucking pop hot.
There's going to be some weed in the air, I'm sure, at that show.
I mean, that shit's going to be so fucking hot that they're going to be like...
Really? You're kidding.
They're
Wait. We'll get him an N95. That'll keep him safe.
Do what?
An N95
An N95 mask.
No, I'm not wearing a mask. No. I ain't doing that.
Actually,
you might get laid that way.
Actually, I'll bring you one of my charcoal respirators from work. That probably would stop it. I thought about during the pandemic, Jack. I thought about because I've got a paint suit that I don't wear all the time, but when I'm doing a complete and I'm in the paint booth for a long period of time, I'll wear it.
Yeah.
And I've got a full face respirator, and I've got the nitrile gloves and everything. I thought about wearing that to Walmart one time. But come on. Do you need your ticket?
Would you quit laughing, Jack? I mean, come on.
I don't know if that's any crazier than some things I've seen at Walmart anyway, James.
Yeah. Well, the people of Walmart pictures, I mean, geez.
Yeah.
I just look like a spaceman, walking in there. It's like, I ain't getting that boat.
Johnny Dare up in Kansas City, morning show host, during the pandemic when everybody had to wear a mask and everything, him and one of his co-hosts, they got like astronaut helmets with a flip-up visor. And they'd be walking around out in public with these helmets on with the visors up. And then the moment that somebody starts getting stupid, they would just slowly lower the fucking visor. And I mean, and these were, you know, they look like Lego fucking astronaut helmet bullshit.
Right.
But it was just, it covered your mouth and everything. And
Right.
it's like, wow.
There was some comedian Rogan had on who actually wore a helmet that went down to a charcoal respirator, had the air pumping in there and everything. And he goes, "This is what I wear on flights now. Fuck them people."
Well, our favorite Italian from Florida,
D. White. Right.
He worked at a hospital during the pandemic, and they had a respirator. I mean, it was like straight up, I'm going deep sea diving, full mask around the face
Right.
with a hose coming off and a rebreather hanging off of his belt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, what was that, Contagion? That movie
I think so.
where the monkey started spreading this disease that was just killing people, just boom. Once they started showing symptoms, they were dead
Damn
in
dirty
24 hours.
apes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just call me Charlton Heston.
That'd be like you know, painting.
Well, you know,
Or
when
something similar.
they're requiring us to wear a fucking paper mask or a bandana, I'm like, I don't give a shit. I wear a fucking mask all day, you know, all the time at work. You know,
Well, you know,
don't
painting
make it shit
you
to me.
do.
The only bad part about it was when it first went down. Luckily, I have a fresh air supplied respirator in my booth. Because if I'd have had charcoal respirators in my booth, couldn't buy charcoals. Couldn't buy the cartridges.
Yeah.
Couldn't buy N95 masks anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's what I use for a dust mask is an N95 with a exhaust valve on it. Couldn't buy latex gloves.
Oh, yeah.
You know, all that shit was like,
And you're going, how in the fuck am I supposed to work here?
I'd run out of gloves, or I was getting close, and I ordered some gloves, and I usually get a 1X glove. Well, the only ones they had in stock was a 3X. I'm like, well, that'll work, you know.
Okay, well,
But
about two sizes too bigger, but, you know, anyway, okay,
Keeps
there
that-
we go.
keeps that lacquer thinner and shit off your hands, you know.
Well, you know, yeah, you know, something better than nothing. Then
Because once that thinner touches your skin, it takes 11 seconds to enter your bloodstream. So all those guys that washed their hands in gasoline back in the day, that's why they got lead poisoning.
well,
Well, I mean, it was leaded gasoline.
Exactly.
So,
I wouldn't recommend it with unleaded either. It still can't be good for you.
well, and
No.
then you got those people that ran Shine, which if you didn't cut said Shine with something, you're going blind. I mean, I'm just saying, there may or may not have been a drink invented in the hills of Tennessee that some of us enjoy to this day. Little Mountain Dew.
okay,
The original Mountain Dew was clear, just like moonshine. And the moonshiners would cut moonshine with this quote-unquote Mountain Dew. Because straight moonshine, you're going blind. And moonshiners, when they would run shine, they would run 50-50. 50 with the Mountain Dew and 50 with the moonshine. So you got a 50-50 chance when you're getting pulled over to get away.
And that's where we got NASCAR from.
That is correct.
right,
Yes.
you know,
I may or may not know a thing or two about, Tennessee.
but I do know I know somebody that would drink grain alcohol
Everclear.
and grain and 7 and still function.
Okay. One of the biggest potheads I know is a 6-figure a year director of IT. That doesn't change the price of tea in China.
You know, I'm just saying, I know this person from what I just said, you know, grain alcohol and 7.
Seagram 7 or 7 Up?
If he's drinking Seagram 7 and fucking Everclear, he's got bigger cojones than I do.
It was grain
I'm
alcohol.
going to cut my grain alcohol with a little Seagram 7 here. My God.
Grain alcohol and 7 Up.
Right.
And would still drive everybody else home that he was there with.
Well, that sounds like a bus driver for Kansas City Metro bus station.
Of course, you remember back in the day, Jack, I was kind of that designated drunk driver.
Yes, you were.
I mean,
And I'm thinking,
it's sad to say, and thinking
shit.
back on it now, it's like,
We were lucky.
yeah, real fucking lucky.
who
I
knew?
can think of a couple incidents that tightened our sphincters a little.
Oh, yeah.
I mean-
just a couple.
When I dated that
One to
person that
12.
lived out around Fairplay, and I found out that my dad took those S curves on 32 at 85 miles an hour back in the day, I get that liquid courage in me, and I'm like, I could fucking do that.
I do that shit.
Shit.
Watch this shit.
The best I ever did was 60. And that was in a front-wheel drive car, too.
Our
S
Jack,
curves past the old Stone Age station.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it was those two tight S curves. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Jack,
Right.
Do you remember when, and we're going to have him on the podcast anyway, but Dario, whenever he took those S curves of that 280Z and wound up piling that sumbitch up.
Yeah, Trio's had a number of pile-ups.
Yeah. Oh, I did talk to him the other day after I got off the phone with you, and he is all for coming down here, and we'll get with Matt and we'll pick a date and get you guys both in studio, and then we'll call Sean in Nashville. And
Oh, my
Oh,
God.
man, that'd be a great time.
oh fuck,
Drio's gonna come down here for a podcast.
yeah.
Well, kiss my ass.
Nope. I don't care how much money you try to pay me.
I mean,
I'm
Jack's
not
got a lot-
messing around.
No. That's not an invite. I'm just saying.
Jack's got a lot further
know.
to drive, so if you need to,
Drio's
you
gonna
can.
come down for a podcast.
Yeah.
Well, who knew?
Well, he messaged me on Facebook, or not messaged me, but I commented on something of his,
Well,
and he commented back, "We need to get together again."
Okay.
And
What James isn't telling you is Dario slid into his DMs.
And then the other day, I'm looking through my stuff, and I'd commented on something Jack put up there, and he's like, "Hey, I've been listening to your podcast. Where do I get a shout out?" So shout out, Jack. And it's like, wait a second, that would be a killer podcast. We could get Jack and Dario here in studio, and then call Sean in Nashville
Have Jack and Drio here?
here.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
I'd give up my spot for that.
Well, I mean, you can sit and look pretty.
Of course.
I mean, I may have to drink a bottle of Jesse James honey and a bottle of Crown Apple and
Well,
maybe some
you
more
gotta do
fucking
what you gotta do. I mean,
agavero
really.
tequila, but you know.
I mean, really, you know.
What's that? You ain't pretty, but you're not too? Or you're pretty, but not too? Or something like that? Oh,
Went to bed with a 10 and woke up with 2 5s.
yeah.
Mickey Gilley.
Wait a second. 2 5s. That might have been a fun night.
Oh, I'm sure it would be.
Okay.
But I mean, if you think you're going to bed with a 10 and you're waking up with 2 5s,
Well,
is it really a loss?
I'm going to say if I woke up with 2, not a 2, but if I woke up with 2,
you know,
I'm going-
5s.
that was a good night.
Okay, yeah.
I mean,
Thank
30.
you for shopping at Walmart. Please come again.
Hopefully my wife won't listen to this podcast, but
Oh, I didn't hear nothing. I know
I
better.
think she'd understand.
Yeah, right. You know,
I'd like to say we never say anything on here that we wouldn't want our. Well, I'm the only one that's married, so
Yeah.
okay.
Well, my daughter has listened a time or two, and my brother has said that it.
she's like, Dad, why are you talking about assholes so much?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
What's wrong with you?
My brother has said that watching us on YouTube TV on his 75-inch TV in his living room
75-inch.
yeah,
Well,
is a little fucking weird to see me on a TV that big. And I'm like,
Dude,
why? Because
I've
you're looking
watched-
in a mirror, bro?
I've watched this on our
You just tell him
65-inch
to
and think it's just
deal
weird
with
that I'm
it.
watching us on TV.
Right. Now,
just tell him to deal
Even
with
though
it.
I know what it is, but it's like, we're on fucking TV. This is fucking cool.
one of these days, we'll get it set up to where we can be watching us.
While doing the podcast.
Well, doing a podcast of us watching us.
Oh, dude. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
We need to get a young producer in here that's off camera, running
You know,
the computer screen behind Andy, so we can look at videos and do shit like Rogan does.
Right?
Yeah.
Or
oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Folks, hold
we
on a
can
minute.
record on one application while watching us on another application. I mean, I'm just saying.
Well, see, now you want me.
Okay.
Now you want me to go buy some legal weed so I can understand what the fuck you just said.
Recording on my phone, and we're
Wow.
watching on my iPad, and then when I get into post production, I take what we watched on my iPad and put it up behind us, so we're facing the camera
Oh, I see what
while
you're saying.
watching,
I see
and
what
it's
you're saying.
playing behind us.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
you picking up what I'm
Well.
putting down?
I'm picking up. Yeah.
So back on Jackie here.
Yes.
Cop movies, cop TV shows.
Yes.
Which ones are close? And which ones are just absolute bullshit?
Well, going back many, many years to, do you remember Law and Order? Back the original Law and Order?
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of their tactics were pretty questionable, but the topics that they were touching on were current case law at the time.
Right.
So they were touching on real topics using fictional persons, of course.
Right.
I point out to my wife, we'll be watching a movie, and it'll show police officers running lights and siren with an arrestee away from a domestic or wherever they made an arrest. I'm like, we don't do that. We actually just drive normally to the jail.
Right.
So another thing too, anyone who's had any real training with a firearm, you see these officers walking along with their fingers on the trigger.
Right.
Well, that's a dead giveaway. They didn't have a very good person giving advice on the program.
Right.
Yeah. So, a lot of times it's little stuff that probably average person wouldn't think a thing about, but in the police world, it's like, nah, that doesn't happen.
Right. I've noticed, I've talked to like my brother about military movies and stuff like that, and he says like one of the best ones he's seen was It was a series, The Band of Brothers.
Yes, that was a great
He
series.
said because, it shows like the shell casings piling up. And the other one, We Were Soldiers and stuff like that. And when they're bringing the choppers back and they're having to wash the blood off the gurneys and out of the chopper and stuff. And he said, yeah, that's pretty, that's as close as Hollywood has got.
We Were Soldiers, Saving Private Ryan, and because Saving Private Ryan, and this had a lot of D-Day survivors, like after the movie, they couldn't get up out of their seats because they were just so shook because it was so real. But Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg made that movie, and in turn, they made Band of Brothers,
Right.
which of course is about 2nd Battalion 506 Infantry Regiment or Infantry Parachute Regiment. I'm sorry, because they were airborne at the time. 101st was airborne. Yeah, they were the sister battalion to the 1st Battalion 506. Vice the reason why I have spades tattooed on my legs.
There you go.
Okay.
And the reason I even brought that up is because, I remember my dad, he was a truck driver for years. And we're watching them movies like Smokey and the Bandit and stuff like that. And when they're driving over cars and shit, Dad's like, yeah, it's a bunch of shit. Because that whole front end would be out from underneath that truck right now,
Funny, and I've talked about this. Dad was running Lowboy through New Mexico and had a Volkswagen Bug. And this was back in the early 70s, I believe. Volkswagen Bug pulled out before he was through the intersection and got lodged between the back axles on his Lowboy. This dude was 6'2", and he was curled up in a floorboard of a Volkswagen Bug when the cop finally got my dad to pull over.
Wow.
Sucks to be you, bro.
Well, duh.
No, we're not talking about Florida. This was New Mexico.
No.
So, Jack, I remember a story you told me, and I'll let you tell the story, but the punchline was Rockstar. Do you remember that? When you pulled a drunk driver over?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Sometimes we try to have some levity roadside,
Right.
And so, there's a number of different field sobriety tests we will put someone through to determine if they're impaired or not. But sometimes, just for the fun of it, we might throw something in like, okay, I need you to take your index finger and point it downward. And you see that rock down there? Yeah. When your finger is pointed at that rock, I want you to say rock. And then I want you to kind of turn a little bit, point up into the heavens like this, gesture upward with index finger pointing, and say, I want you to point at that star right there. It's a star. I want you to do that quickly in a series. I want to see how quick you do it.
That ain't right.
It looks like you're
That ain't right at all. I mean, really?
moving to the Bee Gees music, going rock star, rock star. One of the funniest stories, though, was a deputy friend of mine. He was a practical joker. Oh, that man kept me in stitches. But he he showed up on a traffic. I think a trooper had somebody pulled over for DWI and ended up arresting the guy. And so this particular deputy had a fake pig nose, one that could wrap around your head, and he had a pig snout sticking out. And
Right.
Oh, shit.
so he approaches the trooper's car, and the guy who was arrested sitting there. And he walks up and he looks at the guy. He just kind of looking at him. How you doing? Well, the guy, impaired as crazy, he's looking at him. He's scrunching his face, trying to figure out what he's looking at. He goes, "What's wrong with your nose?" And the deputy said, "Oh, just having a little sinus trouble tonight." The guy goes, "I guess."
Oh, dude, I mean, really.
Well, if you can't have fun,
And then
I'm trying to remember the comedian's name, who was an ex-police officer, but he turned comedian.
Mike Armstrong.
Mike Armstrong. Oh
Yeah,
God.
pretty funny guy.
Yeah. He said when he pulled up, there was a guy in the ditch, and he thought he was still driving, so he just ran up beside him. Pull it over! And the guy like pulled over and put it in park.
Oh man. I mean, the running gag from Super Troopers.
Mm.
Meow. Do you know why I pulled you over?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you say meow? Did I say meow? Do I look like a cat, all jumping around nimbly bimbly? Am I drinking milk from a saucer? And the best part about it is the guy that got pulled over was Jim Gaffigan.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I can only imagine how hard it was to keep a straight face as a comedic troupe to a real comedian.
I like what Mike Armstrong said when they see this drunk laying on the street, and they walked up and said, "Hey, you need to get up." He's sitting there groaning and everything, and somebody come up and goes, "What are you doing?" It's like, "We're getting this drunk off the street." He's like, "He just fell from the second-story window," and he's like, "Oops."
My bad, bro.
or when he called the cops on his wife when the girls were over having a party and they were getting about half drunk, and he went in and told them, it's like, "Strippers coming!" And they're like, "What?" And he called the cops, and the cop comes in, and he's there with a boom box, and he hits the play on this fucking playing the music as loud as he can, and the cop comes walking out, and they're all like lunging at him and everything. He's like, no, I'm a real cop."
There was Planet Comic Con today. There was it was hard to distinguish the real cops from the people that were cosplaying as cops.
Oh yeah.
Because the real KCPD were wearing black with the vest that said KCPD police on it. But then you had those ones walking around in the blue with the badge, and they had the what the fuck the word I'm looking for? The lines going down the shirt.
Mm.
Yeah, they had those just perfect. Like, I've seen like some city cops, their vest looks like the shirt, and it's got the lines and everything on it, and that's what it looked like. And I'm like, are you a real cop? Are you a cosplay cop? Because they're,
I guess there's a way you can find out.
Yeah, go up and smack the back of their head, and then,
Or just fuck up and see which ones respond.
hey, hey, dumbass.
Okay, you're the real cop. I was just wondering.
No, I wasn't talking to you, man. No, the Deadpool, just like Elvira. Yeah, that's the one I'm.
Remember my brother told me about the police out in Las Vegas had no sense of humor because they wore black uniforms in the desert heat.
Oh boy.
And had black cars. So they would slam a motherfucker down on the hood of that car and let him bake there for a while before they got him all cuffed and everything,
I had an old Marine buddy of mine was a deputy sheriff in Maricopa County out in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. And summertime, he would, pull somebody over, and if they were driving barefoot, he would pull them out of the car and have them standing on the pavement.
Oh, shit.
Oh,
man.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that is illegal, isn't it, to drive barefoot?
Yes.
Not in Missouri, no.
Not Missouri? Well, we're hillbillies, so.
Well,
I mean, most places you go in southwest Missouri, especially if you listen real close, you hear the.
Especially when you get east of Buffalo.
You guys have never been down this way. Let me tell you, it's
Well, yeah.
yeah, it's definitely deliverance country here.
I've
We were there this last football season.
Yep, we were. My wife back in 2000, she went to work for Combined Insurance. And of course, they travel all over an area and everything, go to house and everything to sell this. It's a insurance to supplement your health insurance, whatever. And her boss was a Mexican, but he's married to a white girl. But he was talking about the Yellowhammers. And that's what he called rednecks.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he said, boy, when you get down there around that Branson area, there's some Yellowhammer son bitches all over down there. I remember one night we left Lampe. I was married to my first wife, and Chris was with us. We went to see Great White and Tesla, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
And we're an old 79 Buick LeSabre. And have you ever been to a concert at Lampe, Jack?
No, I've never. I've driven by that amphitheater. I've never actually been there at a concert.
Well, it's a 2-lane road going to a 20,000 seat freaking amphitheater, right?
Oh boy!
So getting out of there is a fucking major issue.
Yeah.
So we finally get out and get turned going north out of Lampe, and everybody's got to pee. So we're like, okay. So there's a gravel road I see coming up. So I turn down this gravel road, and when I turn off of it, that subbitch starts going down. It's like, okay. We stop. Everybody gets out and pees. Get back in. I go to back up. I can't back up. I just start spinning. Old real-wheel drive car. I'm like, shit. So I'm like, well, shit. This has got to lead to somewhere. So we go down, we get down to the bottom of the hill. There's trailer houses, dog kennels, chicken houses, shit, and we're like going, yeah, we got to get the fuck out of here.
Quickly.
Get turned around and up the hill we go. I don't think my tires quit spinning until I got to the pavement.
I'll make you squeal like a pig.
Ain't gonna happen here.
Especially back then, because I had long hair and shit. They thought I was pretty. You got a pretty mile.
Well, I'll tell you, I've dealt with a number of rednecks down here.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was dealing with one who had stolen some property. And his statement to me was, finders, keepers, losers, weepers.
It's like, yeah, but you found it in this motherfucker's own house.
We'll see what the judge says about it.
Yeah.
Now, I remember my buddy Cripple when he became a cop in a small town. We won't say where, and I won't give his real name. Mm-hmm. But when he was in high school, he was in a real bad car accident. 3 of his vertebrae became vertical.
Ooh.
Instead of horizontal. He had to learn how to walk again, and the left side of his body from his armpit down, he couldn't feel anything. And when he got cold, everything started kind of turning in on itself, if you will. What do you say? This was like November, and he's like layered the fuck up, cold as shit. And his body says, hey, bro, we're closing up.
Guess what?
And, they had a caller, and they went, and this dude was fucking being stupid, high as fuck on PCP and angel dust and everything else. And he unloaded a magazine on this dude and then ended up jumping on his back. And, yeah, it took like 2 tasers to finally bring this fucker down.
Wow.
Well,
After a magazine of 9mm in his fucking body.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Cripple looked like he was about the size of Steven Tyler from Dude Looks Like a Lady.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Skinny guy.
Yeah. That's this dude's size. And I'm just like, really, guy? You're going to be a cop and you can't be out in the cold? Maybe Maybe you should go to Phoenix. Or go to Tampa, bro. But good times.
That's kind of like the new Chips movie. With the
Michael
guy-
Pena and Dak Shepard.
Well, the guy, yeah, he's all broke up for being a fucking bike rider all them years. And when a storm comes in, he can't get out of the fucking bed and shit. That would have been crippled.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, Jack, we've gone and we have talked. We haven't talked about everything because
Nope, 'cause we're
want it
saving that.
for another
Absolutely.
podcast.
Absolutely.
But you have just listened to another episode of Stu Him Productions Presents
J&M, solve the world.
After Dark.
I have been James.
Wow.
And I've been Matt. And on behalf of Ray and Jack,
But
Ray,
I didn't tell
by
you,
the
Jack's
way.
middle name is Ray, too.
right?
We used to call him Jackie Ray.
Okay, but
Yep.
we know who Ray is.
Yeah.
We got Jackie Ray.
Jackie Ray.
And then
Of
Ray
course,
Ray.
what was your name for me back in the day, Jack?
Stu?
Stu or Stewie Lou?
Or Stewie Lou was another one I called you.
Yeah.
Doing Lou. Well, okay.
Stick on the line.
Well, until next time, you keep one fist in the gold, one foot in the gutter, and we will be seeing you. Peace.
Peace.
Bye-bye.